So our next guest is also going to be at the National Black Book Festival. Her name is Cathy Staton. I think that's how she pronounces it. Cathy Staton. Is that right, Cathy? Okay. Um, and she is not only going to be selling her books, but she's going to be doing a seminar on Saturday. So we'll let her tell you about her books and um, all of her work and the seminar that she's going to be putting on. So if you could unmute so we can hear your voice, Cathy.
Hello,
Welcome
hello,
to Black
hello.
Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, you're welcome and thank you. I'm glad that you got the email about the new link. And
Yes,
so
yes,
that was
yes.
I told at the top of the show, I told everyone, what happened. Um and it's just it was just strange. But you have to think fast because and so I came up with a solution. And my media manager, who also is my stepson and does all the back end for the show,
Hmm.
um, he coached me through how to get it going. So welcome to the show, and we look forward to seeing you at the festival. So Kathy, tell us about yourself, and you're a coach yourself in terms of coaching people through their fears. And how did you start believing that your lane was being a coach for other people?
Mm, Start believing. I actually didn't believe. I was kind of like thrown into this, I think through God. He led me into doing this. But it all started with me just writing my first book. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and my first personal published book is about me getting out of that domestic violence relationship. And it was from there, sharing my story through there, where I was like, sharing my story helped me heal, helped me get through that process. And so just going around and speaking and sharing my stories and meeting people and being in a few different anthologies myself, I kind of got the nudge once I saw how my once I saw my experience or went through my experience in doing anthologies and hearing and seeing what other people were going through. I feel like I had gotten a nudge to, I want to do this to be able to help other people share their stories and to show them how important it is to, for them to share their story and to use your voice to share our stories, because our stories are not for us. The things that we go through are not for us, they're for other people. And so I think it's very powerful and it's important for us to, to do that. And a lot of us are afraid to share our stories because of what people might say or because they're embarrassed, and things like that. And I was too. So I think I kind of, to answer your question, I kind of got thrown in it. I'm not, never was a out front person, never was a person to get in front of people. And so God just led me there. And, and here all these years later, I've gotten, better at what I do. And here I am.
Now, I've noticed a lot of people are, I'm hearing it, maybe, I don't know if I'm hearing about it more. I don't know if it's occurring more. Maybe people are talking about it more. That could
Hmm.
be. But domestic violence seems to be more common than we would hope it would be.
Hmm. It is. Is actually October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's also which a lot of people talk about more is Breast
Cancer.
Cancer Awareness Month. Yes,
Yes.
too. But I always put, when I share stuff about it in the beginning of the month and stuff, I always say they both kill and they both destroy lives. And so, but yeah,
Well,
domestic violence is on the rise, and it's It's out there, and it is getting worse and worse. A lot of women are getting out, and a lot of women are unfortunately, women and men are losing their lives to it. But now you can turn on the TV every day and you can see something, about, domestic violence, unfortunately. So it's very important to speak out, not only write about it, but just to speak out, period, to share your story and to get out of that situation and get out safely.
Mm. Um, are there normally, with the people that you talk about with domestic violence and in your particular situation, are there normally red flags before there's actual physical contact? Were there red flags that you saw for your situation
They're
before
red, they're red
that
flags.
physical?
They're red flags. I believe, and a lot of people may not agree with this, but I believe that, there's a saying that say, love is blind. I believe love is not blind. I believe we just refuse to see, the red flags. I saw the red flags, I mean, I saw them, but I masked them, I made excuses for them, and then later on back in hindsight, I'm like, this happened, that happened. So, and for whatever reason, that we could be broken, so we don't see them, or we, let the person get away with what they're doing because we don't want, them to leave, or, might be financial reasons, or, different reasons why. But I truly believe that we see the red flags, we just ignore them.
Mm. Well, that is true, and that's true in a lot of negative behaviors
Mm-hmm.
that we experience with a spouse or significant other. We really hope it's a one-off, but generally the negative habits, they're not one-offs.
Mm-hmm.
They're character flaws. And
Mm-hmm.
so but a lot of times if you hope, you want the best, you want to see the best in your mate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the saying love is blind. And I agree with you, it's not completely blind. What it
Mm-hmm.
does is it excuses,
Mm-hmm.
whatever's going on. And
Absolutely.
how long were you experiencing the domestic violence? Like, how long did
My
you stay with? Was it
mhm.
your husband?
Yeah, I'm a two-time domestic violence survivor. My first husband was physical, um, mentally, psychologically. He actually tried to kill me and my son, and I was with him.
Mm,
I'm almost 3 years. And my second husband, he didn't put his hands on me, but he um, abused me mentally and verbally, and
mm,
psychologically. And we stayed together for about 2 years, as well. This first time around, I didn't know what to do, or how to get out. I actually thought it was love, until I started getting into church and reading scripture and things like that. And that's when God showed me that this is not what marriage is supposed to be like. And He helped me get out that situation. And the second time around, I knew, I knew better this time, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna, gonna stay in this, So yeah, and I got out. Yeah. And that's what my very first book is about that I wrote way back in 2011, that I wrote about my it's called Love's Got Everything to Do with It. The title actually came from, which is not the book I'm talking about here, but it's my first book. But the title came from, everybody knows the story with Tina Turner,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
and she went through domestic violence. That's Everybody knows that,
Mm-hmm.
really bad. And she wrote a book, What's Love Got to Do with It? And it's crazy because in, knowing her story and what she went through, and it kind of back then, I thought long and hard for my title. And, and when she said, ask what love's got to do with it, and God showed me what true love was, So that's kind of where I kind of flipped the title a little bit, and I said love's got everything to do with it, because it truly does. God's love, you know. In 1 Corinthians 13, God tells us what love is. Love is patient, love is kind. So I went by that. Those verses alone helped me get out of my marriage. If I'm not being treated like this is not love. This is not God's love. And that's why I called the book Love's Got Everything to Do with It, because it truly does.
Yeah, if someone is supposed to love you, you shouldn't be in fear of them. They shouldn't
Absolutely.
put you in a position where you're in fear of
Right.
them. And that's not love. I was fortunate that I've never had a man put his hands on
Mm-hmm.
me. Um, but on my first marriage, it wasn't like abuse. It was just it was like a hell. It was and it wasn't abusive. It was just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are, not everybody has the same idea about marriage. And that's one thing when you
Mm-hmm.
marry a person, you need to discuss, okay, how do you think our life should be? Roles that you play. The
Mm-hmm.
finances are extremely important. Uh, finances break up a lot of marriages. I think that's might be the number one. That and sex, or
Mm-hmm.
that those two. The marriage is hard to sustain a marriage if you don't, um, have communication, and you're not going in the same direction. Your values are not the same, and you don't have the same idea about what marriage is. And that's I found out too late. Well, it wasn't too late because I was married 4 years the first time. But in year two, I found out that my ex-husband, he had a different idea about marriage than I did.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought he could do whatever he wanted, and I was just gonna be, he could be out, stay out, hang out, just do
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just supposed to, I don't know, accept it, or I didn't know. But he had a different idea. And that it's
Mm-hmm.
important to discuss that beforehand, because you can't assume, I assume some things. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't do that. And I think with the domestic violence, from what I hear from women, a lot of women think if it happens, oh, he didn't mean it or whatever, and it's a one off.
Mm-hmm.
No, if he puts his hands on you one time, you need to be out the door, because it's going to happen again. That's not something that's an isolated incident. If a man will hit his wife or girlfriend or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then that's who he is.
Yes, you're right.
And he
Absolutely.
want to be a punching bag or dead. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of women end up dead
Mm-hmm.
from spousal abuse. And this is, whoever, whatever he's got, it's not worth that.
Mm-hmm.
Not financial, or just, you think you're in love. That's well, you said love has everything to do with it, but that's really not love. It's almost like a codependency
For the
kind.
right love. You see, the
Yeah.
right love has everything to do with
Right,
it.
right.
See, there's a worldly love, and then there's God's love.
You're right. You're right.
So
You're
so
right.
the right love has everything to do with it. Yeah.
You're
So,
right.
and that's
Hmm.
what I talk about, God's love. Not just you could tell me you love me and then hit me. That's not love. You're right.
No,
So yeah,
no.
so it's
And the Bible says that husbands should love their wives like Christ loved the church. So
exactly.
that tells you the kind of love. And he was willing to lay down his life for it. That's
Amen. Yep,
that's
that's
the
right.
kind of love that it's supposed to be. So
That's right.
you have a Surviving Her series. Now, what is that about?
Oh yeah, Surviving Her series. My Surviving Her series is in the title, Surviving Her. So I do these series where I recruit women who have survivor stories. We I have different titles that come with each book, and they share their stories. We've had a few men be in the books too, but they share their stories about surviving something. It could be something as domestic violence, rape, surviving a marriage, forgiveness. I mean, any, whatever the title series is, that's where we pull from, and I recruit authors from. I pray for the authors to be in the book, and I have these series. I have written, some women have written some powerful, powerful stories. Um, I've been, just hearing their stories where they've been delivered, they've had breakthroughs, or people have read their stories, and even going through the writing process, they've healed. People have read their stories, and it helped them heal. And and I believe in the stories are really powerful. And I also do documentaries with these stories. So when they join this anthology project, they share their stories, and we do a short documentary with them sharing their stories on the big screen. Because again, I think it's very, very important for us to share those traumatic experiences, because there's someone out there, that is either going through something similar, or this, that have went through the same thing. And just to, be able to help someone come out of that fear or whatever they're going through is really the purpose behind those, that my book of series for Surviving Her.
So you say you recruit women. How do you recruit them? And if somebody has a story to share for potentially for one of your upcoming projects, how would they reach out to you?
They could reach out to me on social media, or they can go to my website, thecathystaton.com. I recruit just by posting, but actually
Okay.
most of my authors over the years that have been in my Surviving Her projects have actually come from word of mouth.
Oh, okay.
Word of
Okay.
mouth from someone else that have been in one of my books. They've come, most of the authors, or the people who join my projects who I've helped become authors and things like that, they've come from word of mouth. But I've also gotten, some people who I've recruited just from posting on social media, running an ad or something like that, or or somebody tells somebody. That's how I recruit. That's how I get them.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
how many books do you have altogether?
Whew.
It's a lot. When you went like that, that means it's a big number.
It's a lot. I know, I think I'm sitting around about between 25 and 30. I stopped counting.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
stopped counting. So, and most of them are anthologies.
Okay.
I've been in a few, and I've written a few single ones, but most of them, because I find joy in, just simply, assisting women with sharing their stories. Because I think, like the gentleman said before, that was before me up here, we all have a story. We all have a story, and you just have to, and also, when I also do, when I recruit, I pray and ask God to send me the right people, because you may have a story, but you may not be ready to tell it.
That's true.
And I can tell that, and we can tell, my team, we can tell by your writing. I can tell if I talk to you, if I interview you to be in the book. I can tell if you're not ready, to share your story. So so I pray and ask God, and say I recruit 15, about 5 might fall off because either they're not ready, to share their story. They don't want to mention this person's name, or something like that, or for whatever reason they're just not ready. And then some fall off because they simply, don't want to pay. You know,
that
because
that can
I've
be a barrier.
because I've came across quite a few people who reached out to me to be in my books, and they feel like they should share their story for free, you know, not
Mhm.
knowing that, this, I have a team that I have to pay, for different things, and we give, and I stand on, like what they say, they stand on business. I stand on excellence. I put out, my projects I put out in excellence, because I believe it's, God, this is something God has me doing. So we beautiful graphics, and things like that. And it's not really about all that, but we make sure your story is powerful. We make sure that it's something, with purpose, and that is truly going to, empower you and those who read it, and help somebody. So if the story is not right, it's not going to go on. It doesn't sound right, it's not going to go in one of my books. So one of my anthologies, it has to be right.
Mm.
So.
Well, the first rule of economics is nothing is free. So
Mm-hmm.
when people expect you to do work and don't pay
Mm-hmm.
you, that's to me, that's insulting. But some people do feel like um, professional time should be free, but it's why? But why
Mm-hmm.
should it? And if people work every day, they get paid for what they do. So why
Absolutely.
wouldn't you
Mm-hmm.
get paid? And all, as you said, all of those things cost money.
Mm-hmm.
You have to editing, somebody has to edit it.
Yeah.
Somebody has to do the graphics. And
Yeah.
then, the formatting or whatever. Everybody is several steps along the way, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody has to be paid on all of those steps. And so, um, it's a good way for people. I know people who are in anthologies, and that's a good way to get started with being published.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you might be one of 20 stories, but it's still your stories in that book. So that's a
I,
good way.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And that's what I recommend. When people reach out to me to do solo projects and stuff, I always tell them, I say the best way to go first is to be a part of an anthology and then do your own book so you can see how the process works,
Right.
and things like that. And I've helped hundreds of women have been through my anthologies with my books, and they've gone on to do their own solo projects. So I have another series called Wow, which is Words of Women. I mean, Words of Wisdom, where I have the authors share their words of wisdom in the chapters, and they just give advice about something they went through in life. So that's another series that I do as well, and that's been
Uh,
very very popular with recruiting women and things. I think my very first one, I had like over 50 women in it.
oh, okay. Now, someone asked, are the stories a podcast or on YouTube? Do you have any of your
I do
stories,
not
like the
have the.
documentaries, and are any of them
Oh
on
yes,
YouTube?
yes, they are on YouTube under. I do not think they are all up there yet, but you should be able to find some of them under Surviving Her on
Okay.
YouTube. On YouTube, yes,
Okay.
they
All
are
right.
up there.
Now, you're going to be doing a seminar at the National Black Book Festival. So
Yes, I'm
tell us about.
so excited about that. I'm just so excited. I love to teach. I love, this is somebody who used to be scared to get in front of people. Okay.
Okay.
I
So
love to
you got
speak.
over that.
Got over that. It's still getting nervous though. You still get nervous. But yeah, got over that. After the first few minutes of speaking, I'm good.
So tell
Yes.
the audience the title of your seminar and what you're going to be covering in the seminar.
So the title of my seminar is "The Power of Your Story: Writing with Impact and Purpose." And the mission behind it is, for the seminar is, we all have a story, but do we know how to write it? Do we know how to write it with impact? Do we know how to write it with purpose? We want to tell our stories. Sometimes I have people write their stories out of their chapters, and they're saying the same thing over and over again, or it's redundant,
Okay.
or they got five stories and I just want one story. I need you to stay on this story, but they're trying to put everything in there, you know. So it's just to teach the audience on how to write with impact, how to grab your audience, how to start your chapter off with a beginning that's going to keep them wanting to read more. You know, it's so many times that I've read books where I was like, I push it to the side because after I got through the first paragraph, it won't tell me nothing. It was boring, or I didn't want to, I don't want to, it didn't do anything for me. So just writing those compelling stories with that impact and purpose, and just writing something that people don't want to put down.
And your seminar is 2 hours because that's all of our seminars are 2 hours. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to have your some of your books available during the seminar.
Mm-hmm.
And is it interactive? Are you going to be doing any? Because we do have um, we have a screen in there that you can plug a laptop into to do a
It's definitely
presentation.
going to be interactive.
Okay.
Don't need a screen, but it's going to be
Okay.
interactive. Yeah,
Okay.
I like to talk to my audience and for you to do stuff and things like that. So it's going to be interactive. So y'all you might get put on the spot. Come and be ready. Be ready. Be ready. But when you walk out of there, I think, you will be empowered to, go and write, and at least know how to start a story or start sharing your story with purpose and impact. We don't want to write for nothing. It's so many authors that I've done anthologies with, or where they've been in my anthologies. They're not doing anything with their books. They have powerful stories, and then you don't want to be that person. You want to make sure that your investment is working for you. Don't waste your investment. You pay to be an anthology. If you pay to write a book, do something with it. Do something with your story. There's somebody out there that needs to hear your story. My story might not help them, but yours might.
Okay. Now your seminar is what time is on a
Is it
Saturday?
two
Is on that
o'clock?
Saturday at 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to be presenting by yourself, or do you have anybody
Now I'm
with
going to be by
you?
myself. I was going to have someone with me, but they are unable to attend. So it would be me. Just me, y'all.
Okay, well, there's no problem with that. Now, are you which genre are you in for your books? Which category are you in?
My category is I think it's inspiration. Yeah,
Well, we have
inspiration.
motivation, self-help,
Mo-
or your religious faith.
Hold on one second. It
'Cause I don't have it
is
in front of
I have it
me.
right here. I have it. It is motivational self-help.
Okay,
Yeah, motivation and self-help.
okay. And uh did you all of the books that you have, you said some of them are anthologies. And then how many books do you have that you wrote by yourself? Just it's just your information in there. And it's not an anthology with other people. So that
Mm-hmm.
they can kind of get an idea about you, Cathy, and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. It will be three of them. Um,
Okay.
yeah, love's got everything to do with it.
Okay.
It's one of them, and it'll be two other ones. Um, screens from the church pew
Okay.
is another one. That's about church hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be
We hear
three,
about
and then
that.
it'll be a lot of a bunch of my other books as well.
Okay. All right. So you have those three. Now, do your anthologies have a particular theme? Like when you create an anthology, how do you decide, okay, this is going to be the topic, and then I'm going to recruit people for that topic?
Oh yeah,
How do
absolutely.
you how do you pick the topic that you want to?
I pray about it, and then it's just like it just comes to me. For instance, surviving her. This one is count. Can you see
Oh,
that?
yeah, that's
Well,
one of
I have
those.
my screen on, but I have, for
Right.
instance, surviving. I have one surviving her that says "Count it all joy." So the story's about joy. I have another surviving her that's called "The Art of Forgiveness." Surviving her, and that's about stories all about forgiveness. Forgiving. Forgiveness is not for us; it's for other people. I mean, forgiveness is for us, not for other people. So the stories in this one is about forgiving. And then I have another surviving her called "Finding Hope Beyond the Pain." So you find hope. So that's my
Hmm.
title for that one. And then my latest one that's going to be released next month is called Surviving Her. This is volume 5. It's called Unraveled Threads.
Unraveled.
Unraveled Threads. That's going to be the newest
Okay.
one. And that
Okay.
is about, and that's called The Journey of Rebuilding Your Life. So the women are talking about how their threads became unraveled. like
Hmm.
something in their life, that came, how you had something in your life became unraveled. Like somebody talks about their divorce, how their threads became unraveled going through divorce, and then how they put their how they rebuild their life after divorce. So that's
Okay.
like one story.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a good topic. I was
Mhm.
talking to a young lady recently that had recently gotten divorced, and she's around 40, and
Mhm.
she was trying to decide, do I want to date, look towards getting married again. Not, you have to
Mhm.
meet someone first, of course, but first you
Mhm.
have to decide you want to even put yourself out there that way. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And she was going back and forth with whether she wanted to do that or not. So how do you advise women regarding that after divorce, going forward after divorce?
Oh, after divorce, I guess it depends on you know what happened, in a divorce or what got them there. But to just to be general, I would say work on yourself because that's where I am. First work on you. Work
Okay.
on you. Spend some time with you and discover who you are because that's where I am in my life now. I'm spending time, I'm just getting closer to Christ, and I mean, I had something tragic happen to me a year ago. I lost my only son to diabetes, my only child in April of
Oh,
last year. So I've been sharing my grief story, and I'm actually going to write my own personal book about losing my, only child and my grief story, my grief journey that I've been on since April of last year. He was 33 years old and he had type 1 diabetes and he passed away. And in my healing process, I'm still healing, and how God, my faith has, kept me from losing my mind. My flesh wants me to just crawl up in a corner and not do anything. Being suicidal, but not wanting to kill myself in that way, but just not wanting to live, but not wanting to kill myself, but just not wanting to live. So just, going through that and how my faith lifts me up out of the bed every day. So just working on yourself, discover who you are and just spend time with you and loving your and learning to love yourself through Christ's
mhm.
way. Because there's two different love yourselves, we had this self-love thing. People talk about self-love all the time, but I'm not talking about self-love from the earthly way. I'm talking about self-love Christ's way. Love yourself through Christ.
Right. Well, that's a good way to end. And thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And we'll see you at the National Black Book Festival in a week and a half.
I'm
And safe
excited.
travels until then.
Yes, can't wait to meet you.
All right,
Wait to
same
meet
here.
everybody. Talk to you later. Bye bye.
Okay.